about it, Mikhail? You don't forget to breathe, or you die. It's like maybe taking a deep breath, inhaling or exhaling. And that's not your fault. That should be the doctor's, if you forget to do that, the doctor should tell you to take a deep breath, to inhale or exhale. At Max Yourself Out, I have yet to see anyone ask the real questions, such as, is a placebo fake if it works? Dude, that's actually an amazing question. There is a medical phenomenon called the placebo effect. If something may be psychosomatic in nature, if you have a placebo used to treat that, that actually may be therapeutic. So that actually means the placebo works. So that's like a great question. Ada Race asks, I have a question for my doctor friends of Twitter first. How often should I get a tetanus shot? Second, how often do I know if I have a tetanus? Third, how much is a tetanus shot? First of all, you spelled tetanus wrong, but I'll forgive you for that. Getting a tetanus shot at least once every 10 years is very important. At Le Marique, I cannot stop craving orange juice. Do I have scurvy? Normally I would laugh at someone who puts 4 question marks in a tweet, but scurvy is a vitamin C deficiency. Orange juice is full of vitamin C. In America, in a westernized country, in an industrialized country, chances, scurvy is very uncommon. But if it's something that you're really concerned about, I would just talk to your physician. All right, I think we're done with doc support, and I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you, Louis. Sorry I didn't get a chance to talk to you that much this time, but most of these questions are really good. Some of them absolutely suck, and you should be ashamed of yourselves. Have a good day. Hi, this is Dr. Ken Jung of Dr. Ken, and welcome to Doc Support. Hi, first question from Ashley at Queensland. How do I know if I have the stomach flu or a hangover? Well, honey, did you drink last night? Hmm? Glug? Did you have food or did you have alcohol? The internet is not for stupidity. The internet is for smart, established doctors like me and my friend Louis here. Okay, another question. Kelly underscore Sheridan 1. Finally, great question. How much vitamin C is too much? Yes, sometimes too much vitamins is too much. You always get these things on medical shows going like, should I take this supplement? Should I take this supplement? And honestly, you can get hypervitaminosis. Like if you go to GNC or some other stores, they'll say like, oh, you get like 2,000% of the recommended daily allowance of vitamin, C. You can actually get side effects and symptoms or GI symptoms from too much vitamin. So it's probably good just get like 100% of the recommended daily allowance. That's really all you need. Great question, Kelly Sheridan. I'm not supposed to do favorites. They can be not to the producer, but they're my favorite. Appetite Macaron says, I have a weird skin tag under my eye that hurts when I rip it off. What's up with that? Skin tag is called a skin polyp in real life.
Hey, viewer. Hello. Thank you for tuning in. How have you been? I'm just relaxing, watching some YouTube before bed. If you have any requests for what I should do, or read, or perform, or whatever, let me know. I will be happy to oblige, most likely.
I think to rip off any lesion, it can be anywhere along your belt that hurts when I rip it off. What's up with that? Skin tag is called a skin polyp in real life. It can be anywhere along your body. I think to rip off any lesion that you don't know about right under your eye, I mean, honestly, I can't think of a more ill-advised, stupid move than that. They can numb up the area, rip it off. I've actually, when I practiced medicine, someone had skin tags on their arm It always frees it off with liquid nitrogen, and it doesn't hurt. I highly recommend that you have a professional remove it professionally. At Captain Handlebar asks, now, can we address the knee reflex test at the doctor's office? This has to be useless, right? No, it's not useless. We're not monkeys that use these just for props. We're not the carrot top of doctors here. I'm going to show you right here. This is the knee. There's a tendon that connects the knee to the leg bone, okay, called the tibia. There's a tendon here. You want to check the reflex of this. You go, oh, let me just check that. And what that does, right, is actually, it checks really your whole nervous system in many ways to see that if your reflexes are intact, low thyroid levels in your body, which is very common, hypothyroidism, you actually will be hyporeflexic, and you would not be able to elicit much of a reflex. So this sucker is very important, okay? Don't mock our tools, okay? We're pros, and we're sensitive emotionally. This is how do you check your pulse? You check it here. You check it here. You can check it here on your leg. A baby can tell you how to check a pulse. Oh, come on, anyone's gonna say no, you can't. You can't ask any question on Twitter. Just don't defend. Shut up. I'm sorry I see that. It's just one of those kind of whole thing. Okay. Urgio Kubo says, do I really need both my kidneys? You know what? That's part of the whole area of like kidney transplantation. You've heard of people donating kidneys to other people in need who have kidney failure. Technically, one can survive with just one kidney if it's as long as it's normally functioning. Really good question. We'll have more questions like this. At Haley Nesbitt one says, why do I always get cramps or spasms in my full leg nearly every day? Hashtag ouch. Hashtag doctor help. No sleep for me. That I would definitely get checked out. Leg pain or leg spasm can be due to a multitude of things. Instead of saying what those 100 things are, you actually need to see a physician for that to determine is it neurological in nature, is it endocrinological in nature, because they do a lot of different things, okay? Good question. At ice_side_EHS. Quick, what are the 3 parts of the brainstem? First one to reply with the correct answer gets a prize. Study, test tomorrow. Smiley emoji with glasses. So, 3 parts of the brainstem are the medulla, the pons, and the midbrain. And the medulla, I believe, controls the breathing, and the pons makes the cerebellum to the cerebrum, and the midbrain, rudimentary vision and hearing. All for me, didn't have to look it up. I'm a smart man. Shut up. I forget. Alright? I've been busy doing hangover movies. At Wigan_Steven asks, any doctors on here? Can I drink alcoholic substances while taking erythropoietin antibiotics? Hashtag doctor help. Hashtag doctors. You know what? Actually, that's a great question. Erythromycin. Hashtag doctor help. Hashtag doctors. You know what? Actually, that's a great question. Erythromycin, which is what erythropoietin is a trademark name for, it can upset the stomach and also is metabolized in the liver. So I would check with your doctor to see exactly how much antibiotics you're taking. I generally discourage taking any alcohol while on antibiotics because a lot of antibiotics are metabolized in the liver. You don't want to like overload them with too much things that can be toxic to the liver. Beijing 14 asks, what's the part of the brain that's going to deal with my emotional breakdown tomorrow? Hashtag AP Psych. There's many parts of the brain that's going to be dealing with kind of stress to take a test. So I wish you the best of luck, and I know you'll do well. All right. At Stu Money asks, if anyone has any ideas for how to deal with sinus, headache, and pressure, I'm open to hearing it. It's been going on for weeks at a time. I would actually consider antibiotics. I would consider going to your general practice doctor or even ear, nose, throat doctor, an ENT doctor to get treatment. At Dr. Claire King says, help, need emergency hiccup cure before clinic starts in approximately 5 minutes. Ah! Deep scared you. Alright? At Life's the Pits. Why is my eye twitching? Oh my gosh, stop. First of all, probably stop using words like, oh my gosh, stop. Maybe get some more sleep, drink less caffeine. Alright? Next. At CD101, I want Burke, but why can't I? I don't know, I'm not your doctor. At CBS Finest 540, my kidneys hurt. Is drinking a lot of water a bad thing? Any doctors on here? Actually, drinking too much water can lead to some problems. I would actually go see a general practice doctor to get your sodium level checked because you don't want to have too much hyponatremia. Anyway, that's Dr. Support. I'm Dr. Ken Jones or Dr. Ken, and I would like to thank some of you on Twitter for your amazing questions, and the others who suck.
YouTube TV. Watch like a fan.
Hi, I'm Ken Jones, and this is the Wired Auto Complete Interview. Thank you so much for feeding the beast that is my Hollywood ego. doctor, last name Ho. I married a Ho. We did away with anything. Get in the car, Ho. Make me some rice, Ho. And you complete me, Ho. And see. Is Ken Jeong Chinese? No, Ken Jeong is Korean. Is Ken Jeong a real doctor? Yes, I was a real physician and general practitioner, internal medicine, and I was fortunate enough to create a show called Dr. Ken, which was based on my life as a real-life physician. Is Ken Jeong? Ken Jeong in the movie Real Genius? No, I was not in Real Genius. Although I love that movie. That was really, I think, 40 years ago. Unfortunately, I was not in the movie Real Genius because I am a real genius. Okay, very good. Well, I'm thinking of Shelby movies. What was Ken Jeong's first movie? I was very, very fortunate. My first movie was Knocked Up, and that was written and directed by Judd Apatow, and it had Seth Rogen, Katherine Heigl. Anybody who was anybody in comedy was in Knocked Up. It had Paul Rudd, Craig Robinson, Adam Scott. This is right off the top of my head. Jonah Hill, Jay Baruchel, Jason Segel, Kristen Wiig, Bill Hader. It was like the Avengers of comedy. That was my first movie. Knocked Up really opened the door for me, and I really do owe so much to Judd Apatow. What does Ken Jeong do for a living? Well, as you know, I overact, but I also do PR appearances, and overacting and press are my passions. I also like to act occasionally when I feel like it, when I don't like to phone it in. And I was a doctor, sick a lot of doctors, sick that area. What does Ken Jeong really mean? I think to be Ken Jeong is to enjoy life, to savor it, to not think at all. And when you do anything in your career, so many people overthink. Not this guy. I just do. I trust my instincts. I trust my impulses more. I don't think when I do any career move. And that is why I'm here on Wired Autocomplete. And you better believe, baby. What's it gonna be, Ken Jeong? Wow, this is a deep cut. Thank you. This means a lot to me. One of my best friends, Mike O'Connell, wrote this song, and we did it on Funny or Die on YouTube that went viral. This is like 12 years ago, and it was a song that he wrote called What's It Gonna Be. It's kind of one of my favorite things I ever did. I was hired on the movie Step Brothers with Will Ferrell and Adam McKay because of the popularity of that video, and here's a sample. What's it gonna be? Yeah. Good. Okay, does Ken Jeong speak Spanish? Ha. Me? Not really. I think that might be a Google question because I played senior Ben Chang on Community for 6 years. Part of the hallmark of that character was that he was never a licensed Spanish professor, and he himself was teaching Spanish that he learned from Sesame Street. So, acting. Does Ken Jeong speak Korean? That is because I am of Korean descent. My Korean is not very good. You know, I can speak a little bit. My father did make me go to a Korean language school when I was a kid. Ken Jeong speaks a little bit, like 안녕하세요 means hello, 감사합니다. Does Ken Jeong dance? That is a resounding yes. Every talk show, every media appearance I do, Ken Jeong dances the same 4 moves over and over and over again until it annoys the world, and then there's a post-ironic embrace, and then I become wrong. Would you like me to dance? Nope. Okay. Does Ken Jeong have a brother? No, I do not, actually. I have a sister. Her name is Sarah. Hi. You're on Wired Autocomplete, and you're welcome. I'm barely mentioning your names because I need more for attention. Okay. Ken Jeong, did you die? That is because in Hangover 2, the character I'm best known for, Mr. Chow, always says, "But did you die?" Little known fact, I had to do jury duty. It was a murder trial. It really does suck when the defendant recognizes you at that murder trial. So when he's looking at his lawyer and he goes, "Oh, snap, but did you die?" I'm like, okay, I'm lost. Sidebar, Your Honor. Excuse, please. So we are completing this portion. And I'll just hold this in perpetuity. Love it. Good. Where does Ken Jeong I can't tell you that I live in Oak Park, California on 311 Driveway Lane. Come on by. Where did Dr. Ken Jones work? That's a great question. I actually was a licensed physician, and I worked at Kaiser Permanente and HMO for about 7 years. And that's where I met my wife, who also worked at Kaiser Permanente. So, good question. Where did Ken Jones go to high school?
Hey, viewer.
Page High
Thank you for tuning in. How have you been? Forgive me for relaxing with my own YouTube watching. Have you any requests for things that I should read or do or perform? Let me know. I would more than likely be happy to oblige. Maybe the lighting is a trigger. Maybe not.
and we're best known as the Page Pirates. Did Ken Jones go to high school? I went to Page High School in Greensboro, North Carolina, and we're best known as the Page Pirates, and we were the state 4A champs in the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade in football. And we were city high IQ quiz bowl champ in my junior year, of which I was the go-to mascot. You heard it here first, Wired. Stuff you don't care about. And that is it for Wired Complete. I am Ken Jones, and I really appreciate you having me. Gentlemen.
Absolutely candid with a foundation that shows the new.
New Photo Ready Candid by Revlon with the ingredients you like without the ones you don't.
Again, so easy.
Hi, I'm Jeff Bader. I'm a knife expert. Awesome. Exquisite. This is a work of art. This thing blows my mind. It looks like we have paring knives. Paring knives are great little knives. They're short, so they're great for taking off the tops of vegetables. If you're peeling something, they're great, and they're just a great all-around workhorse. Generally speaking...
Hey, we have a viewer. Thank you for tuning in. How have you been? I'm just watching a bit of YouTube of my own, but I would be happy to read or perform anything for you that you might request. Just going to do the soft stroking sound and the visual trigger of the light. It was working well a moment ago. Yeah, kind of like that. Just popping my knuckles. There we go. Okay. I might lie down shortly. Kinda tired. And trying to do the sleep-inducing ASMR thing is just making me more tired.
I notice is side A has vegetables. If you're peeling something, they're great, and they're just a great all-around workhorse. Generally speaking, they're on the lighter side. They're smaller. When we look at these knives, the first thing I notice is side A has what's called an integral bolster. That means the bolster, this top part, is flowing out into the blade. So the bolster is actually a piece of the steel. B has a little wacky knob. Your last few inches of the knife, you can make it to the cutting point. I notice it's got a plastic handle. It's a little bit shorter. The heel is very short. One of the great things about paring knife is you can use it in your hand. You're holding it towards yourself instead of going away or going against the board. So if you have a heel, sometimes that'll be a little bit more dangerous when you're, fiddling around with all sorts of vegetables. I need to take a look at these a little bit closer. So when I look at the construction of this knife, I notice a few things that would make this knife a little bit more expensive. This knife has a complete and full tang. That means you see the entire profile of the knife in steel. That's called full tang, with an integral bolster. So when they start to finish this knife after heat treatment, they're going to thin it out and actually feather in this portion of the bolster that would tell me that they're using different types of grinding machines in order to make that transition very effortless. This knife has a lot of processes that it goes through before you get to this point, including sanding of the handle scales and cleaning up and polishing all those rivets. This thing doesn't make itself. There's a lot of work that goes into these things. Let's take a look at B. When I pick this up, I notice it's very, very light. I also notice that I don't see any exposed tang in the handle. So I would think that this is what's referred to as a hidden tang or partial tang. That means that this knife, when it's cut out or stamped out, it actually tapers down here and it's embedded in this handle. This plastic handle has a little bit of give in here. So I'm imagining that it's poured in. This is a poured on handle. I would say because there's less production, there's no rivets, there's no exposed tangs, there's not a whole lot of grinding or sanding, I would say that this is a little bit less expensive of a knife. Generally speaking, you don't need paring knives to be razor blades, because a lot of times when you're using them into yourself to stop at your thumb. So what you're looking for is something light, something easy to use, something easy to replace, and something that's not going to cut your finger off right off the bat. Based on everything I've said, I'm assuming that A is a little bit more expensive, but in order to do that, we're going to have to confirm and look at the prices. Yeah, that's more. So in summary, knife B is a great knife to have in your knife bag. It's a great knife to have in your home. It's a great knife that you don't have to worry about if it gets lost, if it gets stolen, if you break it, if you stick it in the dishwasher, you shouldn't do. A is going to give you a little bit more comfort in your hand. It's going to be a little bit easier to maintain. You might want to go A. All right, we have some chef knives here. We know that these are chef knives because they're a little bit longer. They have a little bit more heel. When you ask for an 8-inch chef's knife or a 10-inch chef's knife or a 9-inch chef's knife, you're actually measuring from the heel to the tip. It's just the blade. So that's kind of important right off the bat. One thing I will say about knife A that strikes me immediately, I believe that this knife has a slight hollow grind, the first half an inch from the edge towards the spine. When I look at knife B, it's a different knife completely. It's a little bit longer, It has a little bit more heel than knife A. It also has a few different features. One is it has brass pins and a decorative pin in the middle. There's also a brass bolster. Brass also tells me that this most likely is a carbon steel, and it's verified by saying carbon steel on the top. All right, you have two different styles of steel that you can use, and each one has its pros and its cons. Carbon steel holds a great edge. It's very easy to sharpen. What you're losing with the carbon steel is it has the opportunity to patina. That means when you're cutting vegetables with a lot of acid, like onions, or you're cutting lemons, or you're using anything with a lot of liquid, what's going to happen is there's nothing in the steel that's preventing it from patinaing and rusting. Stainless steel has chromium in it. And what the chromium does is it prevents
Revlon introduces new Ultra HD Matte Lip Mousse. So creamy, so comfortable, why compromise when you can have it all?
the patinaing, it prevents the oxidation. The funny thing that happens is there's nothing in the steel that's preventing it from patinaing and rusting. Stainless steel has chromium in it. And what the chromium does is it prevents the patinaing, it prevents the oxidation. The funny thing about stainless is it's called stainless. It's not stain never. So if you were to leave this in a bucket of water, ultimately it will rust. To figure out a little bit more about these knives, I really like to pick them up. The first thing I notice, this grind is half an inch from the edge. And when I look at it, I definitely see that these are definitely concave. And what the hollow grind does, it makes up for this distance, this half an inch distance, by kind of coming inside and making the edge a little bit on the thinner side. So that makes this knife a little bit better geometry at that half an inch versus if the blade was ground from the spine to the edge. When I see how flexible it is, and I see the fact that the whole spine is one length, it seems like there's a lot of cost cut. Doesn't make it a bad knife. Let's pick up B and see a little bit more about this knife. I notice this is a full tang knife. It actually has a distal taper, meaning that it tapers from the tip of the bolster all the way to the tip. That means you're getting a little bit more performance at the front. It's really great for cutting onions, and then having a thicker heel is great for kind of going through something harder. When I look at the grind of this knife, the grind goes from the spine of the knife all the way to the tip. So this is what we refer to as a full flat grind. So that means the machine not only tapered it this way, but it tapered it completely this way. It's different from this one in terms of the food release. When you're cutting it, you're going to have a little bit more release of the food off your blade. Versus the full flat grind, the food will tend to stick to the blade. This hollow grind allows it to kind of just slide off a little easier. That's what you want. Based on the construction of both, I would say that B is more expensive than A, and there's really only one way to find out. Yeah, it's a big one. For $4, you can't go wrong with a knife like that. $4 is that's a good buy. You can have this if you're in a small kitchen or if you don't really want to deal with knives. There's nothing wrong with that knife. Versus B, this is an enthusiast knife. This is a knife for someone who's wanting to learn how to cook or get better. This knife also has an opportunity to be an heirloom. It's a beautiful knife. If you learn how to sharpen it, if you learn how to maintain it, this is something you could pass along to your family. It's a great knife as a keepsake. So we have a pair of boning knives. These boning knives are both totally different, but there's a lot of similarities. Boning knives tend to be something that when you're holding them, you're actually not using them against a cutting board. You're actually holding them. Well, butcher maybe hanging a piece of meat and you're actually holding it in the air, or you're boning out a chicken. You're never really resting it against anything. The qualities that you're looking for in a boning knife is you want to make sure that it's nice and thin. It doesn't need to be too long. 6 inches, 7 inches is all you really need for a boning knife. You want it to be a little bit stiff, but looking at these, they might be a little bit more flexible. Knife B, I see a molded grip. It looks like it has a lot more comfortability and slip resistance. You can see that the part of the finger guard here is for protection. So depending on how you're holding the knife, you're able to be a little bit more confident in how it's in your hand. When I look at this knife, I see more designs to be ergonomic. You might feel more comfortable in your hand, but we'll see. I have to put it in my hand first. So when I hold this knife, it feels a little bit heavy on the handle side, which is good. It's going to be a little bit easier to manipulate when you're cutting through chickens or you're cutting through bones. This is more like what a surgeon would use. You want something kind of like a scalpel. We're gonna have to take a look at B to see what's going on with this. So right off the bat, it automatically feels a lot lighter. And one of the reasons why is because this is a hidden tang construction. It's either molded onto this handle or the handle's molded onto the knife. What you end up with is something a little bit more slip resistant. This actually might be a knife that you would have in a professional environment where you want to make sure that if you're processing a lot of meat, you don't really want to have any slippage. So comparing these two knives, this has a lot less steel in it, which might affect the cost. The handle doesn't have as much elegance, it doesn't have as much ornamentation. So I'm imagining that that makes this a little bit of a less expensive knife. I would definitely see this as something that would be more of a workhorse than this knife. And with that said, I would tend to think that A is a little bit more expensive than B. Let's see. Substantially. You know, these things happen. This is 4 times more expensive than this one for the ornamentation. This is the kind of knife you see on one of those stoves that you don't ever really use. They're a little bit more sculptural. I think that the design is a little bit more fussy than a professional would use. Because A has an integral bolster and an integral butt, there is more work involved, more craftsmanship, getting to the point where you can actually put the scales in between the butt and the integral bolster. I think there's a lot more going on in this that would make this more expensive. There's a lot more processes, there's a lot more rivets, sanding. This might be the knife that I would prefer, where I'm using it all day long to process meat, to hold it in a position where I feel comfortable and confident that it's not going to slip in my hand. You're going to keep sharpening it. You're going to be able to get it to the point where it looks like a toothpick, and you're going to throw it out and get another one. So we have here 2 serrated knives. We brought a Damascus knife. All right, that's where we're going. It is an amazing knife. Kind of stunning. A is an incredible Damascus integral knife. I'm going to explain what Damascus is. You can see all this pattern. What that is pattern welded steel, where you take alternating pieces of high carbon steel and high nickel steel, and then you stack them up. And then what you do is you put them in a forge, you get them screaming hot, and then you, with power, a power hammer or a press, you're actually forging them and fusing them into something that you can a usable billet. Once your knife is ground and sanded and finished, what you do is you dip the knife into ferric chloride acid, and what the ferric chloride does is it actually etches and eats the high carbon steel, and it leaves the high nickel steel alone. So what you end up with is a specific type of pattern. So this would be referred to as random pattern Damascus. There's all sorts of patterns. You can see the beautiful little topographical design of the silver being the high nickel and then the darker stuff being a high carbon. When you're forging this knife, what happens is your material is on the thicker side and it's squished in. So this Damascus actually looks like it's flowing out of the bolster. This thing, unbelievable.
Sometimes the boldest act is to be absolutely candid. The foundation that shows the real me.
New Photo Ready Candid by Revlon with the ingredients you like without the ones you don't.
I can. So I did.
Leave it. All right, yeah, let's get away from that one for a second. So what we have here is a more of a classic offset serrated knife. The serrations are not like saw teeth; they're more like scallops. And what that's going to do is you're going to be able to do a little bit more than just bread. Usually, when you see those sharp saw-like teeth, that's really for cutting. That's for like sawing through your tough bread. These offset serrated are meant to be used for not only bread, but for chicken, for prepping. What this knife is, it's similar to a bread knife, but it has this shape. Both knives allow you to clear your knuckles. You'll notice that the handle is a little bit perched out from the line of the serrations, which is going to allow you to work against your cutting board a little bit easier. You have a little bit more versatility with this style of knife than the standard knife. I'm going to lose my mind if I can't pick up this knife. So basically, this knife here is exquisite. It's super light. In the bolster, there's a stick that's forged in.
Hey, viewer, thank you for leaving me.
And the reason why I know that is because there's a brass fitting on the back. So what this tells me is it's connected to the tang to make sure that it's sitting in place in this handle. This is not a very aggressive serration. This is going to be a lot less sawing and a lot more slicing. This thing is going to move through anything like just, I mean, it's going to be ridiculous. I don't know, I might be butter. I mean, it's just extraordinary. I'm like losing my mind. Let's just take a look at this offset screen. This knife is super light. Part of the reason why it's so light is because there's not a full tang. It's a partial tang, so there's not as much material in the knife. It's very structurally sound. It feels good in my hand. I would say this is a good quality knife. I don't think it's as expensive as the first one, but it's a very perfectly fine, excellent knife that you could bring with you to a kitchen. If you lost it, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Looking at both these knives, are perfectly good knives. There's just no way that this is more expensive. The only way we can really find out is obviously the price. Come on, of course. Please. This knife is the perfect knife to have if you're going into a kitchen or if you're at home and you're doing a lot of utility stuff. It's a perfect knife for your bag. You don't have to worry so much about it. The price is right. It's definitely something you should have in your knife drawer. I think that this is a good price for a knife, for this type of knife. This is the kind of knife that you're going to get a lot of life out of. And when you're at a party and someone's using it, you're not going to freak out that it's going to patina like this. This is awesome. You might not necessarily need something this expensive, but a knife like this will get you excited about cooking. This is a knife you kind of have to baby. However, you have to live your life. You can't just be, covering things up all the time. Live your life. $3,100 bucks. Let's do it. Come on, make some dinner. Ridiculous. This thing is insane. This thing is all engine, no brakes. I love this knife, and if I had the money, right away. Right away. So after looking at all these knives, these are the 4 knives that are perfect for your kitchen. All 4 knives are much better than just getting a block of knives that might not be what you need. One thing I will say is just because some of them are expensive and some of them are inexpensive doesn't mean they're going to make you a better cook. All these knives have great pros and cons, and you should feel confident in the type of knife that you get. That's kind of where you need to be. I'm with you.